So where's she going? Oh, she's going, Rita's.
Have they salvaged enough for people to come in there?
Where we're staying,
No,
I
she
guess,
offered.
she didn't have
He's
any,
asked me to go.
Well, then you
where
figure
we're
it
staying,
out.
she did,
I think we're not ready.
they had.
We're already.
William asked me that.
And then, a few weeks after the fire, they had floods that they closed off, people, they got people out of our neighborhood and evacuated, but she didn't have any damage at her house.
Y'all have a good plan.
I'm planning on it.
Maybe several days.
I'm gonna be in the jacuzzi.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
everybody hard pressed to get me on the jacuzzi.
You been beating your spine?
Kyle showed up, so I'm happy it didn't start.
Yeah. Okay,
Roll.
we'll be quiet now so you can go.
Oh, you're fine. I got a question. How do we handle things that we know we can't do? How should we handle that?
Can't do?
Yeah.
Let's go this for help.
Well, I wished I did, but I fret first and then I say, Lord,
Gotcha.
how? Lord, give me wisdom, Lord. I
Gotcha.
fret.
Asking for help is probably my big one. I would start talking and asking where do I need to go for help.
Gotcha. And in this life, we're gonna have our struggles. We're just going to have them. It's just a part of life. And as I sat back there, I was reading the story of David and Goliath. What was that story about? Actually, I mean, what was it about actually?
David was such a small fella,
Mm-hmm.
but that was beside the point in God's view.
Mm-hmm.
He gave him wisdom, he gave him collective idea to, well, I'm gonna get that dude, you know.
Okay.
Also, he
He's
had
gonna
faith and
conquer
courage.
this, and he did.
Certainly.
Also, he had faith and courage.
He sure did.
Yeah.
Lord and courage.
Yep.
Good.
Yep. I sat back there and as I read that story, and I got some things I withdrew from that story, and I was thinking about us in life. There are times there will be things that we know that we just can't do. And how we handle those things, so important. Why is that so important?
That is such a good point.
Well, because we've got, for two reasons, really. One, people are watching us as Christians,
Mhm.
to see how we handle things. But
Yep.
also just because, why is it we have to always take the hard way out? Why can't we just say, okay, when I can't do this, let me ask for help? So we are kind of, we need to be smarter, not more independent.
I got you. I'm going to where Cheryl said, folks see us. People see us now. I read a part where the armies of Israel, they saw Goliath, and they did what? They ran. They actually ran. If we run from things, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Huh?
Somebody's gonna chase
We're
us.
never gonna figure out how to fight.
They actually ran. I mean, it says in it says in 17 and 24. Here's how it reads. It says, and all the men of Israel, and when they saw the man, Goliath, fled from him and were dreadfully afraid.
And what was it God told him more than once? Take courage. Be of good courage.
Now here's where I'm going, and I like what she said. There will be things, there will be times at which we're gonna feel like this isn't gonna work out. Hello, how are we doing? Happy to have you here. In our lives, And there will be times it will seem like or appear, or there's times I have times I know I can't do it. I mean, I have times I will see something and I'll say, this isn't about to happen. I can't do it. But here's what we have to here's what we shouldn't do. Here's what we can't do. Don't run from it. Because here's what I found. It has to be overcome. It has to be done. It has to be done. You can get through it if you want. If you will put it in the Lord's hand. As I read that story, here's what actually happened. Here's what that story is actually about. It's about those things that we can't do. But who is the fight? Who is the battle? It's his. If we to him, he'll do it for us. Here's what happened. Here's why. Hey guys ran. I can't do it. And because I can't do it, I'm gone. But is that what he is wanting to happen? All that does, once we find things that we can't do, what is that actually doing? That is setting things up, and that's stage for him to act. That's all it's doing. That's all it's doing. Here's what I mean by that. When things like that happen, hey, the world knows he can't do it. She can't do it. He's done. But if we will put it in his hands and the outcome, we know what the outcome is. Here's what's weird. I remember when I was small, I knew I would preach. I knew I was supposed to preach. I knew it. I knew it, and I ran forever. But I knew I was supposed to. And here's what's sad. Ran for so years, and I knew. And then I just walked up here, and I decided one day I'm going to put it in his hands. I'm going to let him do it. And then here's what was weird. Once I walked from back there and headed up here, and actually I began anything after I got it. But here's what I did. I gave it to him. And that sounds weird, but I've heard folks say, well, what do you mean? I just accepted that I couldn't do it. And I said, Lord, however this works out, it's on you. But here's where I'm going back to. As they began to run, what was everybody seeing? What was everybody? Thank you. We're done, right? We're defeated. It's over. Hey, let's go home and hey. I mean, here's where I'm going. Here's where I'm going. As I sat back there and read that story in my mind, I could see him just going and running. And all of those Steins just, man, I'm sure they laughed at him, right? Look at them. These guys they're chickens, they're cowards. They're not going to fight. Just look at this. Hey, it's done. Hey, it's done. And hey, they ran. But as I read through it, and we all have been, here's David, and here's what I like about the story. Saul said, I've got this shield, I've got this, I've got some stuff, and he put all of this on. And he tried to walk, and he couldn't do it. And he said, I can't wear it. And he took all of this stuff off that he gotten from Saul. He was saying, what? You can't help me. You can't help me. Hey, this stuff you have, I don't care what you say, this stuff that you have for me, it's not going to help me. So he took all of it off. He picked 5 stones out of the brook, and he had a sling. But what else did he have? What did he know he had? God. And he knew before he went out there, he knew what was going to happen. But how did he know what was going to happen? How did he know what was going to happen?
I would say he's probably in communication with God.
And he went out
That's
there.
where his encouragement had to come from, because he was at loose ends just on his own, even in his size. I don't believe for a moment that
Here's what he knew as he went out. He knew it was in the Lord's hand. He knew that. He didn't think, I'm going to head out here and I'm going to get this done and I'm going to do this. That's not how.
He shocked a few guys, didn't he?
That's not it. He did. Hey, but how did he do it though, guys? How did he do it? By simply putting it in the hands of the Lord. But how did he put it in the hands of the Lord? Now look, all of his help ran. He didn't, well, I'm going to go with these guys. No.
He knew what his strength was and who God would want him to, that's what he had to use, because that's the skill God gave him.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't give him the muscles to, wield a sword or.
And I like what she's saying.
Well, and with his plan he had made, God would have stopped him if it wouldn't have been in his favor, I think.
Yeah. I like what your says. Once we put it in his hands, inside the Lord's hands, he will take us and he will use us how he sees fit. And you are enough if you have what? If you have who? Him. Only if you have him. But if you put it in his hands, he wants to fight the battle for us. But here's what sticks in my mind is how they play it. Here's what we can't do. No matter how it might seem, no matter how insurmountable, no matter, there have been so many times I've seen things and I've said, Lord, I don't know how this is going to work out. I know it will. If I stay in prayer and stay in faith, it will work out for your good. And I do just that. I stay in prayer, I stay in faith, and I don't know how many times after it's through, it's done, I look back and I say, what? That wasn't at all how I had it planned. I had it blew up inside in my mind. It was going to wind up like this, it was going to wind up like this, it's going to happen, but that's not it. All what happened. Here's what it always said to me. He said to Saul, he said, hey Goliath, the Lord has delivered me from this bear, this lion, from this. You are defined by the armies of the Lord. And as he delivered me from those things, the same thing will happen here. But he's going to do it. He's going to do it. I'm not going to do it. He's going to do it. And that's just what happened. But let me stop for a second. When things are hard, when things get rough, when things get tough, if we run, then what's going to happen? What's going to happen?
We're not going to be successful.
That's it.
And we're not going to learn anything.
We're not. And we're not going to grow in faith. And let me say this, if you run, how can we be like? Often he allows these situations to happen and occur because folks, he wants to take those situations and use those situations for his good. Oh, that's myself. Over and over. I see Michael, I see Paul, I see everybody. They talk it in the pool. Well, I know it like this. Well, it hops around in our family. But here's my point. Okay. Why choose me to preach? Hey, therefore, this guy can do it, he can do it, she can do it. But here's what we cannot let happen. Don't question why. You will never understand. It's not important why. It's what God has decided. Just accept what he has decided. And be in faith and be in prayer and move forward. Why do I say that? Why do I say that? Why do I say it like that? That's all we have. That's all we have. I think back to a time, and here's where I'm going back to. I think back to a time, and as I think, hey Goliath, we all have one. Everybody has one. We do. Everybody has one, and there's some folks who have 2 and 3. But it's just a story about this. If you will put it in the Lord's hand, the battle is his. He wants to fight that battle for us. If we'll do what? We'll step out on faith and put him first. It's gonna work out for his good. But here's what often happens to me. Dodged it forever, ran for years, and here's what's sad. Now I look back and I don't even understand how I felt back then. That's crazy, right? After it happened, after I put it in his hands, now that it doesn't make sense. Why did I? That's crazy. How did I sit back there, and how did that happen? Well, I ran and out of fear. I didn't what though? I didn't what? I didn't put it in his hands. Now let me stop for a second. Do I understand it? No. That's what I just kept saying, right? It doesn't make sense. Here's my point though. It's not gonna make sense. Never gonna make sense. But here's what does make sense. What does make sense is I put it in his hands and he took care of it. Here's what we have to understand. The battle is his. The battle is his. But what does he ask of us? To step out in faith and in prayer and allow him to do what he does. He will do it the way he wants to do it. We're not going to understand how and why.
And you know, that's why if one scripture doesn't line up to give us comfort, there's another that follows, because if we keep our focus on what God says and we can believe what he says, those little voices that Satan is saying buts and ifs and
Gotcha.
we gotta block him out and say, but remind him who he is. Our
Gotcha.
God is greater. Our God is greater.
I like
I
what
have to
you
do that.
said. Hey, there was a part in here when he, to Saul, David explained to him, I'll fight for us. I will get up there and I'll fight him. And here's what Saul explained to him. Oh, you are his kid. You are he has fought, he has been a man of war from his childhood days. You can't beat this guy. You can't beat him. You
He's
can't.
diligent.
You can't beat this guy. But here's what detonated. He explained. Saul. He explained to him all the things he had happened to bear, a lion, and he explained to him, I didn't do it, but the Lord did, and the same way he took care of me, and he will not. Now here's what happened, with Saul though. There's no one else to fight, so. And I'm gonna stop for a second. Can I say it like this, but let me stop for a second. Here was the deal. There was a fight. He was fighting Goliath, and whoever won had two swords. So here's what Saul was saying. If I would let him go, and if he win, then we're done, right? How did they feel? Now, I've got to send out here this kid, and he's a kid, and here's what's happening, and if, and everybody else is afraid, and everything hinges on this, on this.
That spoke loudly to them. That little bitty dude just did what he did.
But I think that they were scared, they all ran, so we know they were scared.
Yeah.
And they didn't have probably a lot of faith in him, his
Gotcha.
own people. And the other people sure weren't worried about it, the Philistines, they sure were not worried about him.
Hey, you're right. You're right. When Goliath saw him, he said, am I a dog?
Yeah.
I mean, is this a joke?
Because they were thinking inside the box, that nobody could
Oh.
beat him hand to hand,
Oh, I like what
but
you
you
said.
knock him out and he's gone.
I like what she said. I like what she said.
Size had nothing to do with it.
That's right.
I want to scream what she said. That is what happens with us. We're always thinking inside the box. Here's what's happened in the past. I've seen this. Here's what happens. I've seen this unfold
And
so
why
many
are we
times.
doing that? We're listening to that little forky-tongued devil.
Yep.
On the wrong viewpoint.
By thinking inside the box.
Why
Exactly. Exactly. And here's what the Lord does not want us to do. He does not want you to lean on your own understanding. Had I still been leaning on my own understanding, I'd still be sitting right there. I look at that chair almost every Sunday. I head in. I said, that's where I used to sit. For years. I'd head up here and I wouldn't say a word. Hardly said anything. Here's my point, and I like what she said. If we think inside the box, what have we done to ourselves?
We limited ourselves. We
have
pinned
limited
ourselves into a box.
And it's just like what she said. That's what Satan wants us to do. You can't do it.
To make us believe we're defeated, we're not.
Yeah. Now here's where I'm going next. Here's what David was there. His dad sent him, hey, to take some stuff to his brothers. Here's my point. You will be on time. Hey, the Lord He will always fix it so He has you where He wants you to be. So don't worry about, am I on time? Is it going to happen? How's it going to happen? Now, you will be on time. But here's what has to happen when we get there. We have to give it to the Lord. You have to. Why do I say you have to give it to Him? I heard her say something a few minutes ago. If you believe that you can't, I got news for you. You can't. If you believe you cannot do something, care how hard you try. Hey, you can't. But here's what I know, and here's what I do understand, that there's somebody who can do all things if we will just give it to Him. How do I know there's somebody who can do all things? I remember a time. Excuse me? Exactly. I remember a time when it came my time to speak it all. My palm would start sweating. I wish I could make y'all feel how I felt like that. Palms would sweat, my stomach would be in knots, and I would scan, and here's what I mean by scan. I would think, here's what they may ask, so here's the answer, and stuff like that. When you start doing that, that brings on what? Confusion, mass confusion. But here's what I was doing. I was thinking inside the box. When we put it in the Lord's hands, I'll just say it. When we put it in the Lord's hands, don't worry about it.
Can't be jerking it back.
Hey, you can't.
Either. Well,
Yeah, we should.
we can.
And if we do, all we're going to do is fail. All we're going to do is fail. But here's where I'm going. Here's what sticks inside my mind, and here's what stays with me. Once they saw him, they ran. There was no hope. All of these folks just cut and run. There's no hope. What are we going to do? What has happened? They're gone, and here's this kid, and he isn't afraid. But how was he not afraid? All of these older guys are gone. And these guys have fought for years in war. They're thinking inside the box.
Well, and
They're
I
gone.
have to say, I know this is maybe a little off the subject.
Let's
but
hear it.
Think about kids. When your little grandkids, how much fear do they have
I got
to
you.
do stuff? And, maybe God put that lack of fear in the young people. I mean, he hadn't been jaded. Nobody had told him that, he obviously didn't know that much about war because he'd never been in one. So he was,
Got you.
see what I'm saying?
He didn't see
Yeah.
why it was any different than finding
But
out
but here's what I like, and I tell you, I like what you're saying. But here's what he also knew. Hey, there was a bear. Hey, I fought. I killed him. Hey, there was a lion. Hey, there was a lion. I fought. I killed. So why won't this happen here as well? Why can't this happen here as well? He believed.
And sometimes
Believed.
we have all felt at one time or another, I will guarantee you, that we are alone, that nobody is gonna be there to help us. And so we have to lean on God, And He shows us who can help us.
Gotcha. If we will just lean on the Lord and step out in faith.
Say, Lord, I can't do this in my own strength, but I can do all things through you.
It'll happen. I'm going to read this next one. I'm going to read this next verse to you. And here's what I want you to hold in your mind. All of them had ran. They were gone. And here comes this kid. Here comes David. He takes a slingshot, swings it, and kills a dog. Goliath was a big guy. All of them was afraid. He falls, and then he walks over. He didn't have his own sword. He hit him and walks over to him, and he takes his sword and hacks off his head. Now, after this happens, now stop for a second. After this happened, all of these guys who had ran, as I read, what did these guys do? Uh-oh, let's get them. Let's get them.
Let's take the credit.
Now, tell me what happened, though, guys. Here were some guys that ran who were afraid, and after this happened, let's get them, guys. Now believe. Now, let's get them.
Can you imagine how they felt though that the littler guy among the grown, how many grown ones around him? He stepped up.
Here's my point, guys. And I like what you're saying. Here's my point. That's what we're here to do. The Lord wants to use us in these same situations. If we run, who are we helping? Nobody. If we will stand and if we face these fears and put it in his hands and give the battle to him, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Things are going to change. Lives will be impacted. It gives people hope. Who does it give them hope in? The Lord, right? Because here's what happened. After this transpired, everybody knew everything what David had said was real because he had said the Lord would do it.
It looked like a hopeless situation.
It was a hopeless situation. It didn't just look like a hopeless situation. It was.
It was hopeless.
It was a hopeless situation. It was. And I like what she said. Hey, there was no hope, and boom, it happened. So now it's real. He said the Lord would do it, and now we seen the Lord do it. Hey, the Lord's behind us. He's for us. If he can do this, he can do what? All things. He can do anything.
It brings glory to God. He's going to see it.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, that's why these very situations occur. And that's why if we're in prayer and in faith, that's what's going to happen. It's going to impact people's lives. I'm going to say this. If you've seen somebody run, because they're afraid, and then you see them turn and they'll come back and they are no longer afraid, what's happened? Hey, that's powerful. Their whole mind process has changed. Here's where I'm going. We are important. How we handle things. It's important. Why is it so important? I know I needed to get back going. I said, I got to get it improved. I should get back going. I started some stuff. And I had 1,000 reasons why I wouldn't. I didn't have time. I didn't have any help. It was only work. I just couldn't do it. I mean, it was just too much. It got to a point. And then I said, I'm too old. And I'm going to say something. That worked for me for a long time. I said, I've been to school, and and I want to go back to school, and I'm too old. And somebody hopped in class, and after you took the class, man, something shut me. I didn't have an excuse anymore. My excuse was just gone. Here's my point. My point is that how we handle things. How we handle things, it impacts it, and you don't know what you're doing might impact.
It's our mindset.
Exactly.
Amen.
Exactly.
That's strong.
Exactly.
That's strong.
Exactly. Here's my whole point. My whole point tonight is this: God can do any and all things. There isn't anything that He cannot do, but we have to put it in His hands. I hear folks all the time say, "Oh, I have to overcome this. so hard, it's so difficult, and this and that. And I can't say that I've been through everything because I haven't. But here's what I do know. If you will put it in the hands of Him, no matter how hard it may seem, no matter how big, and Goliath sticks inside my mind. Big old guy, you know, muscle, and he's got this armor and stuff. Here's your small guy. Here's a small guy. And we see what the outcome was. But I'm going to say this. If we handle things right, the world should be seeing those same situations every day in our lives. They should. If we handle them right, the world should be seeing these very things every day in our lives. It's like that guy with that car. He said, this doesn't happen anymore. But he kept saying the Lord. I know it's the Lord. And here's what he kept saying. The last 12 months of my life have been terrible. I had to have something happen. I needed something to happen. I needed something big to happen. Look what the Lord done. That's the same thing. Here's my point. If our faith, and he said, hey, this guy, and two, I didn't get to the story. He said his friend bought the car and gave him the title and everything.